You know, it's funny, people rarely talk about it openly, but if you pay attention, you feel it, especially late at night when no one's around, when everything outside goes quiet, but inside, something just won't stop. Your phone is in your hand, your mind won't settle, your body feels restless, but your soul, it feels like it's missing. So, what do? We chase something. Scroll, tap, fantasize, and it's not because we're bad people, or because we're filled with some kind of reckless lust. No, it's because we're empty. We tell ourselves, it's normal, just biology, stress, a way to release tension. But deep down, you know that's not the whole story. Even while you're chasing that feeling, you're not really there. Your body moves, but your heart's somewhere else. And then, after it's over, the silence returns. That ache creeps back in, along with the guilt. But that guilt isn't about morality. It's about meaninglessness. You've felt this before, not just after, but during. Even when it's intense, wild, even thrilling, there's a distance to feeling that you're disconnected from yourself. You tell yourself it's about pleasure, but what if it's not? What if it never was? What if it's about something deeper? About a wound, a silent one you never had the chance to speak about, one no one ever noticed. It's a wound that didn't bleed, but hollowed you out quietly. Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. What if this lust, the craving, the endless chasing isn't really about desire? What if it's about escape? Escape from boredom, loneliness, shame, from the unbearable silence of the self you never fully met. You don't just want her, you want to be held, to be truly known, to be seen without having to perform. But instead, you're chasing pixels, fleeting moments, a surge of excitement that burns bright but dies fast. And when it fades, the same emptiness comes back, the same ache, the same questions that go unanswered. Here's the thing, you're not chasing her, you're chasing the part of you she reminds you of. The real craving isn't for her touch, it's for truth. It's not lust, it's about loss. The loss of connection to your body, your purpose, your soul. And here's the harshest truth. Lust isn't the enemy, it's the symptom. It's your soul screaming for attention in the only way it knows how. Because inside, there's a wound, one you never asked for, never wanted, but have carried so long it's become part of you. If you're honest, you'll know exactly what I mean. This isn't about shaming you, it's about revealing what Carl Jung believed was the real meaning behind your desire, not sin, not weakness, but soul hunger. And in the minutes ahead, we're going to explore what that hunger really means, why those cravings hurt, and how every act of lust is actually a message from the deepest part of you, the part that's not seeking pleasure, but wholeness. You've been told it's natural, that lust is desire, and desire is life. But what if that's not true? What if what you're feeling isn't lust at all? What if it's hunger, not the kind that comes from your body, but from your soul, the ache beneath your chest, that no screen, no fantasy, no climax can ever satisfy? Here's a truth no one tells you. Lust rarely has anything to do with sex. It's about escape. It's about numbing the emptiness that rushes in when distraction vanishes. It's about filling the void, not just between you and others, but between you and yourself. Every time you reach for another hit, another body, another high, you're not after pleasure. You're fishing for proof. Proof that you're wanted. Proof you're still alive. Proof you can still feel something real. But what if the reason you crave that rush is because you've been running on empty for too long? There's a wound inside. Maybe you don't have a name for it. Maybe you try to ignore it, but it shows up anyway in your restlessness, your endless scrolling, in fantasies that never quite satisfy, in those crushing, quiet moments when it feels like you can't breathe. What you call lust might just be your soul screaming, "I'm starving. Feed me something real." Let me tell you a story. There was a man who on the surface seemed to have it all together. Charismatic, ambitious, always chasing women. He believed what he felt was desire. He told himself he was in control, that every conquest was a win. But late at night, when no one was watching, he'd feel that void. He'd lie there next to someone who once thrilled him and feel nothing. No connection, no warmth, just a dull ache that he couldn't explain. He kept going, kept chasing, kept performing, until one day, he asked himself a terrifying question. What if I don't actually want her? What if I just don't want to feel alone? And that question changed everything. Because he realized he was using her body as a distraction from his own emptiness. He didn't want love, he wanted escape. something to cover the unbearable silence inside him. He was not chasing her. He was fleeing himself. This is what most people don't understand. Lust, in our culture, has become a drug. It offers the illusion of power, freedom, of being wanted. But beneath that surface, it's a dopamine loop. Trigger, fantasy, release, numbness, repeat. And the more you feed it, the less alive you feel. Because the pleasure isn't real. It's not rooted in connection, intimacy, meaning. It's rooted in performance. You play a role, follow a script, climax, collapse, and then you're back where you started, alone, empty. Carl Jung didn't see lust as a moral failure. He saw it as a spiritual signal, a flare from the unconscious, a warning from the soul. Because when you're truly whole, you don't chase, you don't cling, you don't search for proof in someone else's body. You become desire itself. You radiate from within. You no longer need to consume to feel alive, because you're connected to something deeper. But to get there, you have to stop lying to yourself. You have to admit that the craving isn't random, that the endless lust isn't a need, it's a mask hiding the fact that you've been disconnected for far too long. So the next time you feel the pull, stop. Don't repress it. Don't act on it blindly. Just ask yourself, what am I really craving right now? Not the image, not the surge, not the escape, but the real thing, the real need. And you might hear an answer that surprises you. Not sex, not release, but something softer, deeper, older. Something that sounds like, I want to be held. I want to be known. I want to come back to myself. Because maybe, just maybe, you've never been lustful. You've just been hungry for something real. There's a part of you you've never met, not directly, not face to face, but it shows up every night, every time you scroll, every time you crave, every time you break a promise to yourself. Carl Jung called that part the shadow. Not evil, not monstrous, just exiled. The part of you you've tried to forget because it made others uncomfortable. The part that wanted too much, felt too deeply, needed to be loved without earning it. So, you buried it, pushed it down, dressed it in silence, called it control. But the shadow never disappears. It waits, and when you're tired, alone, or numb, it speaks. And the voice it uses sounds a lot like lust. You think it's desire, but it's not. It's your shadow whispering through your cravings. Notice me, feel me, let me exist. But because you forgot how to speak that language, you misinterpret it. You think you want her. You think you need release. You think your body is the problem. But the ache isn't in your body. It's in your soul. You've mistaken longing for integration as lust for stimulation. And the more you run from it, the more power it gains. Because that's what repressed energy does. It doesn't vanish. It mutates. It becomes addictive, compulsive, uncontrollably. Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And what could be more absurd than thinking another body will heal a wound that lives in your psyche? Here's how the cycle works. You feel loneliness of company, but loneliness of identity. Disconnected from your essence, so you crave, you chase, you surrender to the pattern. The hit comes, the moment of intensity, a second of false transcendence. Then it dies, and you feel it, the guilt, the disappointment, the quiet shame. And to escape that feeling, you scroll again. Lust, guilt, numbness, repeat. This is the shadow-seduced loop. It doesn't just feed on lust, it feeds on your forgetfulness. Forgetfulness of who you are, what you need, the voice inside you that's not craving dopamine, it's craving wholeness. Here's the truth. You're not addicted to sex, you're addicted to escape. And every time you run from that ache, you teach your nervous system that you can't handle stillness. But the shadow doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to reunite with you. The part of you that still weeps in silence wants to be seen, not fixed, not shamed, but seen. Because what you call lust is often the repressed cry of a child who wasn't met with love when he needed it most. So now you search for warmth, not because you're a sinner, but because you were never taught how to hold your own pain. This is what Jung meant by integration, not becoming perfect, not deleting desire, but turning toward the parts of yourself you've disowned and saying, I'm listening now. Because when you silence the shadow, you don't become free, you become fractured. You move through life pretending, performing, pleasing while your real self sits in the dark waiting to be remembered. Lust is not your flaw, it's your flashlight. It's the soul's way of pointing to the place inside you that was left behind. So the next time it rises, don't shame it, don't numb it, don't run from it. Pause, feel the pull, the ache, the heat. And instead of asking, how do I get rid of this? Ask, what part of me is trying to speak? Because behind every craving is a conversation with yourself you haven't yet had the courage to have. And here's the most important thing. You need to know you're not wrong, you're not broken, you're not perverted, weak, or addicted to pleasure. You're disconnected from your needs, your softness, the forgotten voice inside you that says, please don't leave me again. When you finally listen, you'll see that what you were calling lust was never about the body. It was the soul starving for your return. There was once a boy, quiet, curious, gentle in ways the world didn't know how to hold. He wanted simple things, to be heard, to be held, to be loved without strings attached. But in his world, love was conditional. Smile more, don't cry, be strong, be useful, make them proud. So he did what he had to do. He became what they needed him to be and, in the process, lost sight of who he really was. Not because he didn't want to be himself, but because survival demanded it. When your softness is punished, you learn to harden. When your feelings are dismissed, you learn to hide them deep inside. When your worth is measured by performance, you become an actor on a stage, playing a role you hope others will applaud. He grew into a man who looked confident, composed, and desired. On the outside, he had it all. On the inside, he was still that little boy staring out the window, wondering why love always felt like something he earned, not something he was owed. So, he started chasing women not to truly connect, but to feel something, to be wanted, to be seen, even just for a moment, to feel like he mattered. He told himself it was lust, natural, masculine, even empowering. But beneath that story was a deeper truth. He didn't want sex. He wanted safety. He didn't want her body. He wanted her gaze. Her tenderness made him forget the boy who never got a chance to be held peacefully. You see, when a boy grows up unseen, he often becomes a man addicted to being desired, because desire feels like visibility. It feels like proof that he exists, that someone, somewhere, notices him. But desire without intimacy is just a flicker, not a fire. And so, the cycle repeats. Longing, climax, collapse. Not because he's insatiable, but because he's still waiting for someone to look beyond the mask and say, I see you. I see the boy beneath your armor. But most people don't. They fall in love with the mask, not the man underneath. And, after a while, he forgets there ever was anyone beneath it. He becomes the role, the seducer, the strong one, the emotionally unavailable one. Not because he wants to be, but because vulnerability was never safe for him. There's a moment that comes to every man like this, lying next to someone who is beautiful, kind, everything he thought he wanted but feeling nothing. No depth, no warmth, no real connection, just the echo of an old ache he hasn't been able to name. Because in that moment, the terrifying truth hits him. He's not really with her. He's with a fantasy, performing a part. And performance, when it's intense and passion, can never replace presence. That's the wound. Not that he craves too much, but that he was never taught how to sit with what he craves, how to feel without fleeing, how to ask without begging, how to receive without proving that he's worthy. Carl Jung said every man carries this unhealed boy inside him. Until you turn toward that boy, look him in the eyes, and say, you don't have to perform anymore. He'll keep showing up in your lust, in your loneliness, in moments that feel like love, but vanish the second they're touched. So ask yourself, when was the first time you felt invisible? When did you start chasing love instead of receiving it? When did your body become your armor and your desire, your language? Because the man who chases women endlessly is often just a boy trying to rewrite a story where love was withheld. But no woman, no matter how beautiful, can rewrite that story for you. Only you can. Not by chasing or performing, but by coming home to the part of you still waiting at the window, waiting to be seen, loved, and accepted exactly as you are. You think it's her eyes, her voice, her softness that stirs something primal inside you. You think it's her body, but the truth is, it's not her. It was never her. It's you, the part she reminds you of, the part you buried to survive. Carl Jung called that part the anima, the inner feminine, that lives within every man. Not feminine in a gender sense, but in essence tenderness, emotion, intuition, the ability to surrender and feel deeply without shame. When a man represses these qualities because the world teaches him to be strong and stoic, he loses connection with this inner feminine. But it doesn't disappear. It goes unconscious. From that shadowed place, it projects out. So when you meet a woman who moves like music, speaks with softness, radiates warmth and feeling, your soul wakes up. Not because she is your other half, but because she reflects a part of you you forgot even belonged to you. You don't crave her. You crave reunion with yourself. This is what many men don't realize. They think they're falling in love with a woman, but what they're really falling in love with is their lost soul through her. That's why desire feels overwhelming, sacred, irrational. It's not sexual, it's symbolic. Your soul trying to come back to itself, using her as a mirror. But mirrors can't hold you. They only show you what's missing. When you don't understand this, you start chasing her, trying to possess her, obsessing over her not because you love her, but because you believe she has something you lost. Softness, warmth, light. But what you're really chasing is the part of yourself that knew how to feel. And here's where it gets dangerous, because no woman, no matter how radiant, can deliver what's missing inside you. She might awaken it, inspire it. But if you do not meet yourself first, you'll turn her into a fantasy, and fantasies always fall apart. The more disconnected you are from your soul, the more you pressure her to carry your unmet needs, your repressed emotions, your forgotten beauty. But she wasn't designed for that. No one is. And so the relationship starts to crack, not because she's flawed, but because you are not really present with her. You're with your projection. Jung warned about this. He said when the anima is unconscious, a man becomes enslaved to erotic fantasy. He doesn't see the woman for who she really is. He sees a myth, a dream, a symbol. And when she shows up with flaws, boundaries, and limits, he feels betrayed. But that betrayal isn't hers, it's his soul, reminding him, this isn't your path to wholeness. It's an invitation to turn inward. The harsh truth is, the more you chase her, the more you abandon yourself. You're not seeking love, you're avoiding reunion. Not with her, but with you. So the next time you're captivated by a woman's presence, ask yourself, what part of me is she awakening? Is it your softness, your sensitivity, that deep longing to be touched emotionally, just physically? Because when you bring awareness to this, everything changes. You stop chasing women to feel complete. You stop projecting your soul onto strangers. You start reclaiming, integrating, and living your own soul fully. Suddenly, you don't need to consume beauty because you've remembered your own. She was never the destination. She was the signpost, the mirror, the messenger pointing you home to the place where your tenderness still lives, waiting to be felt again. And when you meet that part of you, you realize you were never chasing sex. You were chasing your lost self through someone else's body. And now, finally, you can stop, because what you were really looking for was never her, it was you. So, where do we go from here? We've talked about how what feels like lust is often a deeper hunger and ache in your soul for connection, for wholeness. But knowing this changes everything. Because now, awareness is possible. The first step toward healing isn't about chasing less. It's about feeling more, feeling yourself, feeling the discomfort, the boredom, the ache, without running. Because running only pushes the wound deeper into darkness. But sitting with it, facing it, breathing through the where transformation happens. Carl Jung taught us about integration, about bringing these hidden parts into the light. But how do we begin? It starts with presence, with turning inward instead of outward. Next time you feel that pull, the craving, the rush, the urge, pause. Don't reach for the usual distractions. Instead, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What part of me is calling out? This isn't easy, because that voice may be soft, it may be scared or shy. It might sound like loneliness, or sadness, or even anger, but it's real and it's yours, and it has been waiting patiently for you to listen. You might find that underneath your cravings is a story, a wound from childhood, a moment when you felt unseen, unworthy, or unloved. That story doesn't define you, but it needs your attention. Like a plant, it won't grow in the dark. It needs light, care, and water. It needs you. Healing isn't about erasing desire. It's about understanding it, about learning to distinguish between what's driven by old wounds and what comes from true connection with yourself and with others. Because true desire doesn't consume or deplete. It nourishes. It invites you to be present, to be vulnerable, to be fully yourself. And when you nurture your soul this way, the false cravings lose their power. They no longer trap you in the endless loop of chase and collapse. You learn to love your own company, to befriend your silence, to welcome your shadows without fear. And from this place, something extraordinary happens. You stop needing to prove your worth through others. You stop looking for wholeness outside, because you've finally remembered how to hold yourself. Imagine waking up one day and feeling connected to your body, your heart, your soul, no longer fragmented, desperate, or lost, but alive, steady, and at peace. This is possible. It's not a myth or a dream. It's a journey anyone can take, and it starts with one simple choice: to stop running, to stop hiding, to start feeling. Now, what about your relationships? When you bring this presence into your relationships, everything changes. You stop seeing others as objects to fix your emptiness. You start seeing them as mirrors of your own journey. You become more compassionate, more patient, more real. Boundaries make sense. Vulnerability becomes possible. An intimacy, true intimacy begins. This is the integration Carl Jung spoke of. It's not about perfection or denial. It's about wholeness. The invitation is to bring all parts of yourself home. The light, the darkness, the desire, the pain. Because within this integration, lust transforms from being a trap into a guide. It becomes a sacred energy, a way for your soul to speak, for you to connect, for life to flow through you more fully. So the next time you feel that fiery pull, remember, it's not your enemy. It's a message, a signal to slow down and listen, to turn inward instead of outward, to love yourself rather than chase illusions. This is how you reclaim your power, how you heal the wound that never healed, how you find peace in a world that often feels restless and chaotic. And here's the most beautiful part: when you do this for yourself, you become a light for others. Your healed presence invites those around you to do the same, to stop running, to start healing, to return home, because, in the end, the journey isn't about escaping lust, it's about embracing your soul. It's about coming back to you. Alright, so now that we've taken a deep dive into what lust really is and what it isn't, let's talk about moving forward. Because understanding this isn't just helpful, it's transformative. It shifts how you relate to yourself, how you relate to others, and ultimately, how you find peace. Remember, lust is just the surface. Underneath, it's about hunger, soul hunger, that aching emptiness that no one or nothing outside can fill. So, where do you find the nourishment your soul desperately needs? First, it starts with radical honesty, the kind that's not easy, because it asks you to face yourself without excuses or distractions. It means sitting with your pain, your longing, your loneliness, and saying, I see you, I hear you, you are not alone. This is the foundation of integration according to Jung, the journey back to wholeness. It's not rejecting desire or lust, but embracing these urges as messengers. They tell you where your soul needs tending. Next, you practice presence in your daily life. Whenever the craving rises, instead of immediately acting out or numbing it, pause and ask, what story am I telling myself right now? What am I really seeking? This mindfulness rewires your nervous system. It helps create space between impulse and action. It also invites compassion, because as you listen to your inner world, you start to understand yourself better. You treat yourself with more kindness, not shame, not frustration, just gentle curiosity. Another powerful tool is connecting deeply with your body, but in a way that's nurturing, not objectifying. When you feel restless, try grounding yourself. Breathe deeply. Notice sensations. Feel your feet on the floor. This reconnects you with your physical presence instead of using your body as an escape or performance. You can also explore creative expression, writing, art, music, movement. These channels allow what's stuck inside to flow out safely and authentically. And finally, don't underestimate community or support. Whether it's therapy, a trusted friend, or a spiritual group, sharing your journey helps dissolve isolation. You realize that the wound that never healed is not a burden you should carry alone. So what does healing look like? It's subtle and gradual. You'll notice fewer compulsions, less shame, and more moments of real connection with yourself. And with others, you'll begin to distinguish between fleeting desire and soulful longing. And sometimes, desire will still come, but it won't control you. You become the master of your energy, not a slave to it. This means relationships change. 2. You stop seeing others as puzzles to solve or fixes for your emptiness. You engage with them as whole people. Knowing your worth isn't dependent on their approval or presence. You can love freely, with less fear and more authenticity. And here's the most empowering part. This journey is one you can start anytime. No special skill required. No dramatic upheaval needed. Just a simple shift. Notice your cravings without judgment. Ask what they really mean. Welcome your shadow parts with kindness. And practice returning to yourself again and again. Because every time you do, you heal a little more. You piece together that lost part of your soul. You break free from the cycle of chasing and escaping. You finally come home, and that, my friend, is the greatest power there is. So next time you feel that restless pull, whether it's lust, longing, or something you can't quite name, remember, it's a call from your soul. Don't run. Don't shame. Listen. Welcome. Integrate. Because you don't have to be broken to be whole. You've just been waiting to remember, and when you do, your life, your love, your very being will never be the same. Thank you for spending this time on this journey with me. If this video resonated, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the mind, soul, and those parts of ourselves we often avoid. Remember, your soul is calling, you only need to answer. Until next time, take care of yourself.